I'm the decorative dish towels your Nana never lets you touch, Sarah Fong. And we are here today playing Spyro the Dragon, a PS1 classic and one of my absolute favorite platformers, if not my favorite platformer. I played this game religiously. I don't know that I've ever 100% completed it, ever. I found that the original Spyro has had a lot of growing pains. So, we'll see. We're going to actually boot it up now. We'll go ahead and get started. See how much of this we can actually complete. Nothing like that old PlayStation boot up sound to really get the nostalgia juices going. Excuse me. I actually have recently, within the last few months, live streamed all of this on Twitch, but wasn't completely worried about 100% completing it. But I wanted to try and start uploading some content on YouTube, because I'd like to be able to take my time with games, not necessarily have to worry about going back and forth between reading the chat and watching the actual content that I'm playing. So I'd like to actually take the time to complete games more adequately, I suppose. So my goal to do this playthrough is actually get through to the end where Nasty Nork is, and we'll see if we can actually do it or if I'll lose my mind trying.
Okay, rolling.
Oh, it's been peaceful here in the Five Worlds, or is it 6? For a dragon's age. We now have 12,000 treasure, or is it 14,000? What about this Ganasty Gnork character? Now, I understand he's found a magic spell to turn gems into warriors for his cause.
I'll take that question. Nasty Nork is a simple creature.
Simple.
He has been contained in a remote world and is no threat to the Dragon Kingdom. No threat! Besides, he is ugly. That does it.
I mean, that was really rude. He hadn't done anything to you at present. They kind of incited that one. So, interestingly enough, Spyro came really early in the PlayStation era of voice acting, and if you can recall similar games from the time, take for example Resident Evil Director's Cut.
Thank you for releasing me, Spyro. Free 10 dragons in the Artisan world. Then find the balloonist. He'll transport you to the next world.
What about Nasty Nork? I'm going after him.
Find dragons first. That's all I can tell you.
As I was saying, the voice acting in Spyro is actually pretty phenomenal when you compare it to similar titles of the same generation. I mean, Final Fantasy didn't even get voice acting until PlayStation 2 era, and it wasn't that good. Like, I would say this is even arguably better than that.
Where's Nasty Nork? I'll torch him.
Keep your horns on, Spyro! You have much to learn first. Do you know what the dragonfly following you is doing? His name is Sparks, and he's helping and protecting you. Keep an eye on him and see what I mean.
So starting either in Spyro 2 or 3, I actually can't remember exactly which. I want to say 3? 3 feels correct. Sparks actually started getting his own series of mini-games, and I feel like at one point had actually got his own title. But I might not be 100% correct about that one. So the way to actually complete, because there aren't really mini-games in the first Spyro per se, the way that you do completion runs in the first title is by getting all of the gems, all of the dragons, and all of the dragon eggs. And if I recall correctly, there's not actually any benefit from getting all of the dragon eggs, apart from the very end of the game, where you do unlock the Nasty Nork. I believe it was Dragon Shores, I believe it is. After defeating Nasty Nork, there's a portal that opens up for Dragon Shores. So we're just gonna try and go through most of the spots in this area to get all of the gems. You know, it's crazy because as of today, actually, I'm starting to play about an hour of gaming content to upload it to YouTube per day, in addition to doing my 5 or 6 hour streams at night. So effectively, I'm working like 2 full-ish time jobs between editing, filming, streaming, and uploading video game
Hey,
content.
Spyro! Press the jump button twice to glide. And don't be afraid.
Afraid? Of what?
Falling from high mountain peaks? Plummeting into prehistoric glaciers?
Oh, that.
So this is a pretty exciting endeavor for me. As a lot of you probably know, I actually got my start with cosplay. So it's been really nice to go back and play a lot of the content that kind of made me the nerd that I am today. I think a lot of us started with these early generation titles and kind of grew our nerd love, if you want to call it that. And one of the problems I was having with cosplaying all the time is that oh shucks. One of the problems I was having with cosplaying all the time is that it takes up so much time and so much money. And I make a decent income as an engineer, you know, but it takes up so much time and money that it leaves very little for anything else in your life. It's very consuming of a lot of my effort. And therefore, gosh darn it, I gotta use this camera more. So I've actually been wanting to take a pretty, I don't even want to say break, but just in general scaling back on all of the cosplay I do and really saving it for special occasions, and instead focus my efforts on actual creative content and playing games that kind of made me want to get into cosplay to begin with. I believe, is there, oh, there's another chest over on this side. I don't know that I can truly ever get to a speedrun status, but playing some old games to completion, for me at least, would be pretty cool. Especially since a lot of times when I was a kid, I couldn't. Thankfully, I have played this one recently enough to, okay, so, oh, that's right, you have to manually save in the first Spyro. Crazy, huh? Spyro 2 had implemented autosaves, so I kind of like forgot that these early games were so really mind-numbing with the tasks that you would have to repeat all the time. I remember flying from this hill was kind of difficult before. Ah, but we got it. First try. I think one of the guys ran in here, and one ran down there. So we'll get this guy first. This one. Oh, I forgot the first Spyro was analog compatible. I actually first played Spyro because a neighborhood kid of ours, he's a friend of mine. He owned a PlayStation 1 and I got to play it for the first time at his house. So I got my first PlayStation, and the game that I wanted very specifically was Spyro the Dragon, the first Spyro the Dragon. And I also asked for Resident Evil 2. And I believe my dad had got me some other games as well, and I can't quite remember what they were. Oh, I think I got the first Crash Bandicoot as well, but I mean, I suppose that this is perhaps an unpopular opinion. I don't want to say unpopular. I think that most people are probably 50-50 on it, but I was always much more into open world games, platformers, such as Spyro, and Crash Bandicoot really was a 3D game on a linear 2D platform for the first game at least. I know that some of the other ones they got a little bit different. We added a little bit more variance to them, but I only ever really played the first one and some of the second one.
I wasn't sure if you'd escaped.
I believe the second one was the one where you went up in tiers on portals.
Bother me, but here's a hint. Metal armor is fireproof, but a charge attack will take care of them.
It always bothered me when game tutorials, I say loosely, because early games didn't really quite give you the level of spoon-fed tutorials that modern games do, or modern games often do, I should say. The problem is that a lot of times they would feed you information that you needed to know 5 minutes ago and were probably already frustratingly trying to figure out. I do miss intuitive game design in that they would teach you through trial and error almost, or make it so that it was very easy to get an understanding of your surroundings. Okay. And from that you can infer what you were supposed to do. In an intelligent way.
Spyro, want to know a secret? Use the triangle button when you want to zoom in and look around. Oh,
I actually forgot about that.
Safe with me.
I don't really know why that's a secret, though. Oh, shit. Too early. My perspective got borked. Okay. Man, can we just talk about how fan-freaking-tastic the music from Spyro 1 is? This music really... Okay, so I have this very strong opinion that I can tell how good a game is by the emotions that the soundtrack gives me afterward. And that's not to say that games can have good soundtracks without also being like mediocre content or whatever the case, but the way that the music makes me feel, instead of just saying, oh, that's a good song, I actually get some sort of emotion from it, is a measurement of how good the game is. Like, if my appreciation of the music is more than just, like, surface deep, I guess would be a probably more confusing way of saying it, actually, but I think you know what I'm getting at. But I could easily listen to this soundtrack just while working. Oops. Have it on in the background and really, like, feel my, my 7-year-old oats. Okay. We also got the key, if you recall, underground. So we're gonna run over here and use that bad boy. Man, one thing, I actually have played Spyro 2 more recently than I have played the first Spyro. One thing I really miss is the hover ability and some of the other abilities like swimming that you have in the subsequent titles that you don't get in the first one. Okay. Oh no! Alright, so... Man, I don't know if I'm gonna... I'm just recalling some of the struggles I had trying to get, some of these levels done, especially in the Dreamweaver's world. That was... where you did the charge ramps and the treetops world in the Beastmakers. I guess the treetops level in the Beastmakers world. Anything with charging platforms in the first Spyro game I find extremely infuriating. So I'll probably have to prep for those, knowing full well I'm going to need to watch a couple playthroughs
Big
going
enemies
into
like this Gnorc with the club cannot be charged, but a quick flame, That should defeat them.
To accurately finish them. Okay. What do I have missing? So when I played this game on stream, interestingly enough, I actually ran it through a PS2 and did a specific capture setup where 100 on 100, 3 out of 3. Okay, cool. So I did get everything in here. Sweet. Now I don't know what I was saying. I'm sure it'll come to me later. I think it was something about streaming versus live streaming versus playing in private and uploading things later. Alright. So, I believe that we're missing all of our content that is back here. Oh, Spark's not a... Yes.
Cool flash! Do that again!
The Artisan's boss is through a portal behind me. You can challenge him now, if you feel you are ready.
Now, I know that the demo for the Spyro games, which I also played prior to purchasing it, because I believe my cousin had... I believe it was my cousin had. He had a he definitely had a PlayStation before me, because I went to his house, and that was the first time I ever saw anything like Resident Evil in my life. It scared the absolute crap out of me, but I was like, I want that. I want that! Alright, we're missing 2 red gems. Or 1 green gem. Ah, there we go. Awesome. Do we have all the dragons too? Let's see. We do. Cool. So, all we have to do now is play through the other levels in the Artisan world. I think I'm probably not alone in saying that playing some of these games when I was a kid were among my absolute favorite memories. I mean, my whole life. I remember playing this game this summer. I got it for my, I believe, 7th or 8th birthday. And I just loved sitting home all day. It was so hot outside. Sit inside an air-conditioned living room with my sister, my little sister, and sometimes my cousins, sometimes the neighbor kids, and playing these video games all day long, specifically PlayStation 1 and Nintendo 64 for me, but even earlier in my life, I had a Sega Genesis, and my cousin had a Super Nintendo, so we did get to play those a lot too. The unfortunate part for us, however, was that we were very poor, so both my cousin and I.
After you freed all the dragons, pass through this fancy vortex thingamajigger. It'll take you back to the Artisan home. But first, let me tell you a story.
No thanks. See ya.
We were both very poor, so while we did have the consoles, which, by the way, by the time we got Super Nintendos and Sega Genesis, I believe the PlayStation 1 was already out. So the only reason we could even afford the consoles is essentially because they were moving on to the next generation consoles when we were kids. But we could only afford so many games on them, so even though we owned the consoles, unlike today where I have literally a library, hundreds and hundreds of games, both digitally and hard copies, that wasn't the case when I was a kid, so I really only was able to play maybe a couple titles on each platform that I had. So for the Sega Genesis...
Watch the dragonfly, Spyro. His color indicates his power. When he eats butterflies, he stays strong. Like me.
Sure.
Sorry, if you haven't noticed, I'm taking breaks when voice acting cutscenes happen. I'm trying to be considerate that way. Anyway, I had on Sega Genesis Street Fighter 2, Streets of Rage 2. I believe I had the Looney Tunes game, but it only worked half the time, so I didn't actually get very far with it. And I had Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And then on Super Nintendo, my cousin had Pitfall and Super Mario Brothers. Maybe was it Super Mario World, maybe? And Donkey Kong Country 2, which was our favorite because we could both play it. I guess we could have both played Super Mario World as well, but I don't know that we ever did very much. I guess when it came to platformers, I much preferred,
When you free a dragon or step on one of their platforms, you're saving your progress. That could be useful if you run into trouble. Not that you ever run into trouble, Spyro.
I'm trying to think. I feel like I had at least one other game on Genesis. But I also remember renting Genesis games from Blockbuster, and I played Bart's Nightmare, which I totally want to play again. I have to like play it for sure. And there was like a Barney game too that I like totally want to replay for at the very least for nostalgia purposes. I feel like my cousin also had like a different cousin actually. He had a Nintendo original entertainment system. And he had like some sort of Sesame Street game on it that I also really liked when we were really little. And I don't know if you guys remember the Fisher-Price games that were on PC, but I also loved the shit out of them when I was a kid, as well as the Freddy Fish games and Pajama Sam games. Nintendo Fangirl, if you guys know of her, she's actually a semi-famous YouTuber, but a good friend of mine.
Spyro, my friend, how about a hint on gliding?
You bet.
For the longest glide, press the X button at the top of a jump, and try pressing the triangle button to drop down in mid-flight.
But Nintendo Fangirl and I have mentioned before doing like a tandem stream or something or a cosplay or something of Freddy Fish and Pajama Sam. My sister always really loved those games too. They were like the original point and clicks. I actually feel like, not original point and clicks, but point and clicks existed way before Freddy Fish. But for me, they were the first point and clicks because that was my first exposure to something like that as a young kid. And I think it probably has a large amount to do with why I love that kind of like point and click, mystery solve, solution sort of games to this day. Alright, so I know there's a lot of hidden things up here. I always seem to miss some of them. Whole way around here until we see some gems. They're all hidden up here somewhere. So I'm not sure if a lot of you kids remember a time when online strategy guides weren't particularly easy to come by. And if you got, and there was no YouTube, right? YouTube's really only about effectively like less than 15 years old at the time that I'm making this video. And when you got stuck in a game and needed instruction, you either had to call the developer to figure out an answer to a puzzle, for example, or you would rely on your friends who had done it for you. So one of the things that I had done to discover the hidden key in this game was my next door neighbor happened to have read it, I believe, in PSN, PSM, rather, PlayStation Magazine. And because of that, I was able to complete this level. Oh, and in that process, we actually discovered another chest down here that I had somehow missed. Alright. 69. So let's go back up here. And we're gonna hop off this cliff to get the hidden key I had just mentioned. The aforementioned key. You can see here, it's the only spot not covered by those blocker things. Alright. You see there's a beach down here. And it's actually below the end game area where we wind up going home. Back to the home world. Go back to our pot down here. We should be able to pop that bad boy right in there. Now let's see, where does that get us? We are 2 short. I have a feeling that's in that chest area. Or the top area, rather. So let's go ahead and give that a look again. Well, not around here. Nope, not in there. So the only place left to go. Back through here. Even the sound effects are so nostalgic to me. So we kind of got to check out our grassy knoll area over here to see if perhaps we had missed something. Doesn't look like it, so we're gonna go up here. Cool. For me, everything's so pixelated because I'm playing this on an enormous TV. And it's like, I can't tell the difference between sheeps and gems when they're too far away. It just looks like moving things in the distance. Let's see. So we did this area already. Let's go in between. I feel like there might be some over in the distance on the other side here. Like, oh, frick. Like maybe we had missed that part or something. So we can hop over that castle and go over again. So today is Barney's, my pug, his, I don't want to say birthday, because it's not the day he was born, but 3 years ago today we actually got him from the breeder. And so I decided to treat the dogs to a little bit of my chicken from Muscle Maker Grill. And I feel like that was a really, oh, I see it, Cool. We got it. I treated them to a little bit of my chicken from Muscle Maker Grill, which was kind of a mistake because they are ripping super ass underneath my table right now. And it's killing me. Alright, that's it. And then I believe, let's just make sure we got all the dragons. Boom, and we got our dragon egg. Cool. So let's go ahead and save. Cool. And then go back home. Sweet! So I think we'll end the episode here. With the next episode, we will play the town square area, as well as the, I believe, Toasty, the main boss, and then we'll head over to the Peacemaker's world. I think it's Peacemaker's, the second world. Guess we'll find out! I'll see you guys then. Until next time, I'm Sarah Fong, and I'll see you guys later.